All right, we should be live. Hi,
Hello.
we're here speaking to Josh. Josh is one of our top tier patrons, and as a top tier patron, we have discussions here sometimes about anything that you guys want. So, by the way, link to our Patreon is in the description. We're doing this live on my personal channel, which is the Armin Navabi YouTube channel, but then later we're going to post it on the Atheist Republic YouTube channel. So, Josh, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about the Bible and the Quran being evil books, and then you also wanted to talk about some ideas about Christian blasphemy art, and then what else did you say?
Right.
I'm going to bring up the email.
Yeah, I have a list.
Yeah, I was like that's a very interesting list. I have an idea for. Do you know about what our idea is when it comes to like Christian blasphemous art? Did you hear what we had?
No, I know actually, next week is Aisha and Fatima, right?
Fatima, yes.
Right. I'm looking forward to that. Yes.
But what's your suggestion for Christian blasphemous art?
I think I heard you guys talking about like a transgender Jesus, and yes. I quite like that idea. I think you know we haven't gone there yet in the art department, so
we had like a Jesus coming out as a woman art for in a church. There was like this cartoon for children, and Jesus was like had boobs and all, and that like got a major reaction, like butthurt people, right? From like so. But I thought that was like cute and cartoony. I wanted to do something more elegant and beautiful. I wanted to do something that actually is symbolic of Jesus's rebirth, because like think about, Jesus died and was born again, and I want to communicate that through what trans people might be feeling when they go through transition, right? I was thinking is as if like they're putting like their old self is dying and they're being reborn into this new identity. And I was thinking of like having Jesus in the cave coming out as a woman, but he's not. It's not just him being a woman now, or she being a woman now. It's also she's born again as a woman. She died as a man and was born again as a woman. So it's kind of like matches perfectly. Yeah,
that's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah. So. Yeah, you really thought that one through.
Yeah. But if you have any other suggestions for Christian blasphemous art, let me know.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Yeah. And I think at one point we'll have to get a lot of the gods together, just for, I don't know, maybe like a threesome or a foursome, maybe an orgy, I don't know. At some point we can like maybe build up to that.
Maybe like 1 year down the road we'll have like a scene with everybody in it.
That would be fun.
That would be cool with all the characters. Yeah, that's a good idea actually. I didn't think about that. Yeah. So what did you want to talk about when it comes to the Quran and the Bible? Like what did they have some anything specific in mind? Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So I guess as an atheist, I see like the Bible and Quran having like I think evil stuff in it. Like I would say like the promotion of slavery, like gay people being stoned in the Old Testament, and then even in the New Testament, condemning people to hell forever, for not being Christian, and so I know that there's evil stuff in those books, but I think, would you agree with the phrase that the Bible and the Quran are evil books, or would you think that they just have evil content? Because they also have some good stuff in it too, admittedly. So I guess when you hear the phrase "the Bible and the Quran are evil books," what are your thoughts to that question?
I think that if any, is there any book that doesn't have? I mean, it would seem like a miracle for you to be able to write a book that long that doesn't have anything positive in it. So if anything, if those books are not evil books, then what are evil books? You know what I mean? Also, I think that the so-called good parts of the Bible and the Quran makes them more problematic, not less problematic.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't really know what. Yeah, I mean, if by evil book you mean books that cause a lot of damage and misery,
Right.
I don't think there's no other books that could compete with the Bible and the Quran. So if any book deserves the title of evil books, it would be these books. I mean, what other books can you think of that are responsible for this many human misery? You know, than these ones. But I mean, I guess Marxist books maybe. But over, I don't know. I guess I think overall, because they have been around a much longer period of time, so they have caused a lot more suffering than other books. So the good parts of the Bible, though, or the good parts of the Quran, I think if they weren't there, these books would not be this harmful. Like, imagine if there was a book that had nothing that you could like point to and have like a warm, fuzzy, kumbaya, feel good message in there. Do you think a book without anything like that would survive as something popular?
Right.
It wouldn't. It would just be like nobody would even. It wouldn't even turn into a major world religion, right? So it would, if it was purely evil, it would be less harmful. So part of the evilness of the Bible and the Quran is the fact that it has those so-called good parts in it, because it ended up being more destructive because of those parts. So what do you think?
Sure. No, yeah, I totally agree with that. There are other books, which I don't want to mention one book because I know you guys are concerned about demonetization, but the old German one.
MK written by Adolf.
Right. Exactly.
The MK, yeah.
Yeah, that one, that's, we don't consider that, we consider that purely evil for obvious reasons and for the harm that it caused. And you're right, the Quran and the Bible, because of the good parts that are, the so-called ones that are in it, they've stayed around longer because of that. And so the harmful ideas are, they can continue to be used. So I totally agree with that. Right. And the so-called good ideas too, I think a lot of religious people think that it's unique to those books, right? And it's certainly not unique to those books. Yeah,
exactly. In fact, not only it's not unique to it, it was discussed a lot more, with a lot more nuance and, in a much more sophisticated way, thousands of years before these books were written by the Greeks, right?
Right, exactly.
Like ethics and morality were discussed much more advanced ways by people that came before them, right? So not only they do not deserve credit for any moral messages, they came up with a dumbed down version of it. And also, like, an example that I use, like when you mentioned Adolf, again, we don't mention his last name because YouTube, but I say, imagine if everything about the history of World War II and what Adolf did and what Germany did was the same, but in an alternative universe, you had the added history of adults going into the poorest part of Berlin and took these godlike Aryan children and fed them food and like gave them, like, hugged them, and like we had, like, imagine you had a lot of videos and pictures of that, right? We don't have that, thankfully, but if we had that as PR, this would, like, even with all the crimes that he committed, with the Hala, and all the other people that died around the war, and all of that being there, a lot of people would use this as way to show, like, look, they're trying to make it make it seem like this guy was evil, but how could somebody like this be evil? Look how he's treating poor people. Look how much he cares, right? As if, like, one of the great things about that guy is that he was so, like, there's really not that much to go with PR. Like, If you look at his defenders, they keep talking about, well, he saved Germany's economy, even though that's very short term, and then everything crashed because of the war. They're like, oh, he loved animals, he was vegetarian. Like, they have really the grasping at there's really not much there to work with, right? The guy, that's why this ideology didn't last even half a generation before its collapse. It wasn't a powerful meme. It would have been a more powerful meme, even a more destructive meme, if we had just one additional him being nice to poor people or something like that would have made this meme a lot more stronger and a lot more destructive meme. So it's good that we don't have those things, so that they don't have the PR benefit of going out and spreading these toxic ideas. But unfortunately, Islam and Christianity have those, and that's why they became so popular and spread. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
By the way, I have the Quran. I have talking about the Quran.
All right.
And Bible. Look at this. This is my rainbow Quran.
As the rainbow one, I saw that. Yes. Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, as much as I hate the Bible and the Quran as guides to life, I love them both as mythology.
Right.
And history. I think I hate them as they're evil when it comes to people taking them seriously and real and guides to life. But if you don't believe in them, then they're wonderful.
Yes.
They're interesting. They're very interesting.
They are.
To study.
Yeah. Kind of like how we appreciate Greek mythology, or Norse mythology or whatever, those have interesting stories, and so do the Bible and the Quran. I totally agree.
Like if somebody is very fascinated with the Mayan religion and Mayan culture and Mayan history, we don't go to them like, how could you? They had human sacrifice. Are you endorsing human sacrifice? Like, no, of course not, right? Just because you're interested in the history of the Mayan religion, that doesn't mean that you're endorsing the practice of human sacrifice, right? So I wish, if again, I keep telling Muslims and Christians, you have no idea how much fun your religion is if you just stop believing in it. There's so much mystery and puzzles, and especially with Islam right now, it's a lot more fun because of this all of the death threats and all of the intimidations when it comes to scholars. Objectively looking at the history of Islam, there's a lot there that hasn't been unearthed and analytically and academically look like. So there's so many puzzles that is yet to be solved for us. So there's the mystery of it intrigues me. You know what I mean? Not that many scholars have went after the Quran and the Hadith the way at the level that they have went after the Old Testament and the New Testament. So there's so much room for discovery. I don't know if you saw this on video. They asked Bart Ehrman. You know Bart Ehrman?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
They asked him if he is ever going to look at study the Quran the way he looked at he analyzed the New Testament. And do you know what his answer was?
No, I don't.
He's like, yeah, maybe once I'm tired of living.
Yeah. So never.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
I this is why I'm reading this book now. I didn't know if it's okay to endorse this book, because the person that wrote this book, he has a lot of questionable views, but his scholarly summary of the scholarly work around these topics are so good, and I like his writing, even though he's he's a bit the paranoia when it comes to creeping Sharia. You know who I'm talking about? This guy, Robert Spencer.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah. So he himself is kind of fear mongering a bit too much, and accuses people of doing taqiyya left and right. So I can't endorse everything he says, but I like his books, and I really like this book, by the way. So
interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know he wrote stuff like that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, not to be confused with Richard. That's a different
Oh,
person.
right. Oh, that was different. Okay. Oh, you're right. Yes. You're right.
Yeah. No,
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
No, this is
Okay.
Robert, not
Robert
Richard.
Spencer. Well, let me look him up then. Okay.
Yeah. No,
Is he a scholar?
Yeah, he's a scholar and he writes good books, even though on
Okay.
Twitter and social media. You know Ali Rizvi?
Yes. Oh, of course.
Okay, so Robert
Secular
Spencer
Jihadist
thinks.
podcast.
Yes, so Robert Spencer thinks Ali Rizvi is a secret jihadi.
Okay.
There's the Taqiyya. Okay, so he's
Him of
he's
all
a little bit he's a little bit over the top. So again, but I
Gotcha.
can enjoy his books even though I don't endorse some of the things that he says.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I know who you're talking about now. I got his wiki profile pulled up. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think. Yeah, but go ahead. You wanted to ask?
Sure. No, speaking of books, I wanted to mention your book in the background. I actually have a funny story about that. So one of my questions relates to I went to a Christian university and I graduated from one. And anyways, I took a worldviews class during my senior year. And my Christian professor actually brought up your book during class. And he recommended it for us to read. He didn't require it, but he recommended it if we wanted a good atheist perspective. So,
wait, your Christian professor in what class?
This was a philosophical worldviews class.
Yeah. Oh my God, I freaking love that.
Yeah, this was back in 2015. So, yep. And I know that was, and that helped me actually kind of change my view. So I'm so glad that you wrote that.
That boosts my ego in such a it's unhealthy for my ego to be boosted this much, for my book to be recommended by a Christian professor in a philosophy class. Jesus Christ. Okay, great.
Yeah. Wow. Just thought you should know.
You just made my day.
Yeah.
That's great.
You made it all the way to my Christian university. So
are you ex-Christian?
I am ex-Christian. Yes. I am. I guess I can give a brief background of my deconversion. I grew up in a Christian family. I went to Christian schools basically all my life. And then I went to a Christian college. It was kind of during my junior year of college, I started questioning things. More of like the utility of religion was kind of the first thing that I questioned, because it seemed like I was praying to God quite a bit. I was really lost in this time in my life. Like I was kind of picked like a very generic degree. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So I prayed to God a lot to help me to help me find like a specific direction in life. And after praying quite a bit and not hearing anything back, I came to the conclusion that either he doesn't care or he's just not there. And so it was kind of like the first domino that kind of moved me along in my transformation. And then I had a gay friend come out to me as well. And I went to a homophobic school. It was a school where they would expel you if they found out you were gay.
Wow.
So I kind of had that view of gay people. And, my friend really changed my mind, because it's hard to hate someone who has a face, who's not a caricature. So he did a lot for me to change my mind on that. So, that and a couple other things. And after I listened to a lot of YouTubers, atheists on YouTube, and they convinced me during my senior year.
Was religion a big part of your life?
It was huge. Yeah. Weekly church services. And I went to Christian schools, which meant in college, for instance, we had to go to chapel basically twice a week in order to graduate. And we also had a minor in biblical studies when we graduated. So we took a lot of, Bible courses. And So, it was pretty ingrained in my life.
I feel like a lot of people who are never religious don't understand what a big change it is to people like us that religion was a big part of their life. Like, I don't know if captures it, but I imagine, like, I try to tell them, imagine like the sky falling, because imagine if you have your understanding about how everything in the universe works and who you are and what you are ends up being wrong. Like, imagine if you wake up and you realize that, I don't know, like, we're brains in a vat and this is nothing that we experience is real, or like something about everything about the nature of reality is completely, I don't know, completely wrong. Like, maybe like, oh, you just wake up and you realize the last 30 years of your life was a dream, and or something crazy like that. Okay. I mean, imagine something that's revolutionary about, like, mind-blowing about how you perceive what is real and what's not real. To me, that's what somebody who believes in God and heaven and hell, and that somebody that takes that seriously and make decisions based on those premises, when they leave religion, that's how for me at least, I'm not sure about you, but that's how big of a earth-shattering moment it is for us. Like, it's basically, and I don't know, is that, would you describe it like that?
You described it perfectly. Yeah, it's like the floor just being taken, away beneath you.
Right.
Your whole purpose in life is taken away. I think that was the thing for me that kind of got me, like, what am I supposed to do now? And that's the first thought that I had. But I found my way, and there's the big lie is that the only purpose you can find in life is through those religions, right? There's many reasons to live, so it's but yeah.
I think the mistake a lot of people make is that when they realize that they were wrong about something so significant, and now they think like, okay, now I got it, then they come to the conclusion that now they got it, right? And now they're on the right. Now they're right. Okay. But I always try to remind atheists that the same brain, the same mind that you had that was so wrong about something so significant, what are the chances that that brain is now right about everything else, right? Like, if anything, you should become very skeptical about all the other positions that you're holding right now, because it's very likely that that wasn't the only thing that you got wrong, and now you fixed that one thing, and now everything else. So you should hold all your beliefs with a lot more skepticism, given how wrong you were about something so major, right?
Yes.
So just because you just have to know that you are extremely, like, almost definitely holding wrong beliefs as we speak, right? All of us right now. Right. So just be mindful on that. Like, that I have beliefs right now that are ridiculously wrong, and you right now have beliefs that are ridiculously wrong, and we would be embarrassed to know, and that's okay. But just know that, and just go through your life knowing that you have beliefs that are probably extremely wrong. And I think that level of skepticism is really healthy.
Agreed. Yeah. Right. If we're not humble enough to, question our beliefs, then, we will hold on to those wrong beliefs. So
I don't see it as humble.
No. What do you see it as?
I actually see it as, like, I think this is another thing that we need to do to show it as a position of strength rather than weakness. So, like, look at me being all skeptical and all. Like, look at me being so honest. Oh my God, I'm being so honest with myself. This is so goddamn impressive. Like, bragging about knowing that. Like, I think because people are attracted to strength, I think the thing to do is to sell skepticism as a position of strength rather than a position of weakness, because people are just, I think we could be, because people associate skepticism with lack of confidence, and people are naturally attracted to confidence. So I think we could just turn this on its head and sell skepticism as a position of confidence, as like, look, I'm not intimidated by admitting that I'm wrong about things. I believe in myself so much that I'm ready to accept that I'm wrong about something like this. That's how strong I am. That's how, I see it as a position of, I see you being intimidated by being wrong about something as a position of fragility. I don't see being like, I don't see like, oh, I'm right about this, right about that. I don't see that as strength. I see that the fact that you have built your entire identity on your positions being right all the time, I see that as a weakness. I see that as fragility. And if you could say, because we can't rewire people's brain to see lack of confidence as a position of strength. This is something that we're attracted to. So I think just like looking at it from a different perspective rather than trying to go against our genetics would be a more efficient way of selling skepticism, right?
Yeah, that was well put. I like that. Yeah. All right. So it's not humble. It's a position of strength. It's confidence. Okay.
I mean, whatever works for you.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, if somebody likes to be humble, then you could like look at it from a position of. I just think most people are attracted to strength and confidence. So when it comes to marketing skepticism, I think that would work for us, right? But again, everybody is different. If you like to enjoy looking at it from a position of humility and you enjoy being a humble person, then look at it like that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right.
I see in your email. Oh yeah.
You go ahead. You have the question.
Yeah. You ask what is the weirdest story in the Bible? Okay, I'll ask you, what is the weirdest story in the Bible?
Okay, yeah. Let me see. I have a couple. There's this one. I cannot remember the exact name of the prophet, but I think the Old Testament has quite a few strange ones. I remember this one. Let me see. Okay. Yes. Okay. Here we go. So this is. It looks like it's Judges 3, and it's about an Israelite hero named Ehud, spelled Ehud. And so this was during a time where the Israelites were oppressed. And so this guy freed the Israelites from captivity or oppression. And what he did was apparently there was this I think they actually describe it in the Bible as like the oppressive king who ruled over them was apparently a bit overweight. And so what this guy did was he carried a knife in, I think, to the king, like he's going to see the king. Now apparently Ehud was left-handed, so apparently the soldiers never thought to look on his left side for a knife. And so he got away with, taking the knife in. And what happened was, he got in and then he stabbed the king. And I'm going to pull this up so I get it correct. Cause it gets weird. Let me see. Okay. So Ehud, so here, this is, Judges 3, it looks like. Judges 3 verses 21. It says, Ehud reached with his left hand, drew the sword from his right thigh, and plunged it into the king's belly. Even the handle sank in after the blade, and his bowels discharged. Ehud did not pull the sword out, and the fat closed in over the sword. And then Ehud went out the porch, shut the doors of the room behind him, and locked it. And then he left. So I thought it was a very descriptive murder, about this, overweight king and how the sword got lost. I don't know. It just was weird to me.
It's oddly specific.
It's very specific, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, makes you wonder what's the because this is all supposed to have a purpose and a message. Makes you wonder, why would that be? Like, what would be the intentions of including those details there?
Yeah.
It's fat shaming. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But no, we can.
Yeah.
What's the most ridiculous New Testament?
Ooh, that's a harder one. Off the top of my head, let's see. I think there is this story about how a man was listening to Jesus one time preach, and apparently the man fell asleep and fell off a roof, I think, and died while Jesus was preaching. And if I remember correctly, I think Jesus went over and like healed the guy, and then he walked away. And let me look that up, because I'm almost certain that's a story.
Okay, what about the cursing of the tree?
That too. Yes.
Is like Jesus?
Yeah. You go.
No, you go. That was
it was I think it was a fig tree specifically that he walked by, and I think he was telling some parable or something to his disciples, and he cursed the tree to not bear fruit, I think either for a period of time or for the rest of the tree's life. And I think the moral of the story was, this is what like an unfruitful person is like. A sinful person is like this tree. It doesn't produce any fruit.
But it doesn't say that in the Bible. It doesn't say that in the Bible. In the Bible,
it doesn't.
Jesus. No, I mean, it says like this. Does it say that this is about a person? Like, is that's the added meaning that people added to it?
I think it's the meaning that people added to it.
Yeah, because it's such a ridiculous story that you have to add some meaning to it, or else it's just going to be pure ridiculous. The story by itself is Jesus walks up to a tree, and he wanted to eat some fruit, and the fruit doesn't have it was not the season for that fruit, so Jesus gets upset and he curses the tree. Like, imagine, like, totally normal behavior.
Right.
The tree doesn't have fruit, so you curse the tree. Like, that is like, okay, like, this guy, like, calm the hell down. Like it's not the right season, Jesus. Like, I mean, it seemed pretty insane when I read it. One part of the story of the New Testament that I don't know if this is accurate interpretation or not, but some people suggest that most people misunderstand the Good Samaritan story, right? Because when Jesus was telling that parable, like, it's actually a racist story. Like, the so-called good parts of the Bible, this is actually not a good part of the Bible. It's a bad part of the Bible. Because the Good Samaritan story is that, like, there was somebody that needed help and people passed by him and didn't help him, and this Samaritan guy comes and helps him, right? And the moral of the story is that even a Samaritan could be a good person, because because people were looking down, because people at that time looked down upon Samaritans, like people were racist against Samaritans, right? But this is like, look, if a Samaritan could be a good person, then you have no excuse, because even these vile, disgusting creatures could do an act of kindness. Like, imagine if I say to you as a story, right? And like, look, I lost my wallet, and this guy comes to me, and he's a black person, right? And he gives me the wallet. He finds it for me, and he gives it to me. And all the money is there. All the money is there. He didn't take any of it. Like, can you imagine? Like a black, right? Like a black person, he didn't take any. Like, imagine if I told you that story, right? You would be like, okay, Armin, I think you have some issues, right?
Yes.
So some people are saying that this whole Good Samaritan story is actually an anti-Samaritan racist story. That is like, if you actually read into it, I don't know. That's what a lot of people. Actually, there's a comedy sketch about this as well. I don't know if I can find it here. Hold on.
Sure.
Okay, you look at that. You look up that Bible verse. I'll see if I could find
Sure.
Good Samaritan. Oh, here. Hold on. Let me share my screen with you.
All right. Sure.
This is funny. Do you want to see this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, it's only 2 minutes, so don't worry.
Okay.
Let me know if you have audio once I start playing. Okay.
Sure.
He walked by on the other side, leaving the man.
I can hear it.
Then who should wander by but a Samaritan of all people? And he actually helped the man.
Hang on, Master.
No, he did. He went over and actually.
No, sorry.
No. I mean, this is what I'm saying. That a Samaritan, all right, so have a good think about your attitudes.
Jesus.
Went and helped.
Yeah, no, I see.
No, stick with it. Because what I'm saying is that he was a good Samaritan. That's good Samaritan, if you can imagine such a thing.
Yes, yes, I can. I know there's a lot of prejudice against Samaritans, which is terrible. But I'm sure I speak for everyone in this room when I say that there are loads of really nice Samaritans.
Yeah, some of my best friends are Samaritans.
Yeah, me and the wife last year, and they were lovely people.
Couldn't do enough for you.
Yeah. So what I'm finding offensive, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, is your unreflecting acceptance of this cliche that all Samaritans are wankers.
No.
Yeah, but you're implying that the fact that he was good is worth a story in itself. It's some kind of weird curiosity, like an albino Nubian.
No, I'm saying that goodness comes in unexpected places.
Yeah, and I'm saying that the fact that you wouldn't expect goodness from a Samaritan betrays your inherent racism.
Okay. All right, that's a big word. Let's just take a deep breath here. I didn't mean to thing I intended. I didn't realize there were any Samaritans in the room.
No, that's not the point.
Or Samaritan sympathizers, Sammy lovers.
Oh,
I didn't realize it was such a cool environment here, and I suppose I thought that having what was only intended as a fond pop at our Samaritan neighbors, friends even, if you like, would not be inappropriate in the context of a story which is, after all, about goodness. And at the end of the day, it is only a parable.
What, it didn't really happen?
Well, of course not. A Samaritan tosser wouldn't do that for his own grandmother.
That was a great ending.
Yeah.
Oh
my god.
But seriously though, yeah, that's
That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, it's those things where, when you're in that world, and when you're in that world, things like that seem normal, right? And they seem good. But then when you step out and look at it from a different perspective, you're like, oh, that actually wasn't right. Right. So,
yeah. Actually, there's a real version of this that I experienced in Iran. Actually, this ties into very good to one of your topics that you wanted to bring up, like as Christian schools and Islamic schools, okay? Because I actually experienced something very similar to what we just watched in real life. Because I don't know if you know the story, because I said it in a couple of our streams, but when we were studying Islam in our school, one of the stories that our religion teacher told us was that Balal was the first black Muslim and one of the companions of Muhammad. And he was famous for having a beautiful voice when he sang the adhan, right? Which is the Islamic call to prayer. Like he would go, like his voice was so angelic. And this is the companions of Muhammad are like the earliest companions of Muhammad are celebrated as the true Muslims, the best of Muslims. And Bilal, who was black, was one of them, right? And he was like tortured for being one of the earliest people who converted to Islam and all. And what we were told in class, that Bilal was so good and he had such a beautiful voice when he sang the azan, that when he died and went to heaven, as a reward in heaven, God turned his skin white, and
Oh,
and
that's bad.
and God turned his skin white, and he had like this shining white skin that light will just come out of it. And I remember listening to this, like we were like, as kids, we were like, wow, what a beautiful story, like that. Like we were all impressed, like oh my God, so heartwarming. Like nobody in our class at any point think like only years later thinking about this, like, wait a minute. All right. But at the time, no, there wasn't a single person that I could see that thought that this is like a bad story. We all felt like this was a beautiful, heartwarming story at that time, right? But now every time I tell people are like, right? So yeah.
No, exactly. Stories like that. And I think of another one in the Old Testament where, all those animals are sacrificed to God. And, they were just sacrificed, nilly-willy and just on demand. Like you would sacrifice 1,000 animals and for, to satisfy some, to satisfy God. But looking back on it, it's like, oh, that seems really, it seems like he was kind of fragile, that he needed like somehow 1,000 animals to be sacrificed to make him feel better,
And he specifically said that he enjoyed the smell of their fat burning.
Yes, that's right.
That's very specific. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Weird.
It is weird.
Another thing that is interesting to me is that when you see like the cute children's depiction of Noah's Ark with all the cute animals, the elephant and the giraffe and the boat, and you have like people like, oh my God, look at cute Noah and Noah with his family on the boat and all the giraffes, the zebras. Like you have some kid-friendly versions of it, and the implication, like this is like supposed to be cute and heartwarming and whatever, but the implication of this image that the kids are watching and celebrating is that all the other ones were drowned to death, right? Right.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing to me that everybody's watching that as like, oh, it's so beautiful. Look at all these cute animals. They're like, okay, yeah, but what happened to the rest of them? And then also like the idea of like all the human babies, every single human baby is drowned to death as well, right? Like that comes with that, like, but
exactly. Just doesn't register when you're in that bubble. So
yeah.
So funny. I'm always going to think of that now when I see Noah's Ark pictures. Like, think of all the cute little animals that died,
right?
That drowned in water. Slowly.
Not a pleasant way to go.
We can talk about the school experience. I know I talked a little bit about mine, but like, what it was like, like how did you learn Islam in schools? Like, was it like a dedicated class or was it kind of woven throughout?
So from in elementary school, part of every school's curriculum in Iran was one class dedicated to Islamic studies, which was called Dini. So you have math, you have science, you have literature, and you have Dini, which is basically studying Islam. But then once you get to high school, there's two other classes that get added. So you have Dini, which is studying Islam, and then you have Quran classes, and then you have Arabic classes. So basically 3 different classes dedicated to Islam somehow, right?
Wow.
I remember Arabic being the class that everyone hates because everybody understood. It's very interesting because we all understood that this is such a waste of our time because nobody could imagine what, like, at least with biology, math, science, we could understand that this is going to be helpful to us at some point, maybe if we're in a career someday, right? I don't know how there exactly, but probably, right? But everybody understood that we're wasting so much of our time learning a language that is never going to be useful to us. But ironically, I was the only person. Me being frustrated with it the most is now a person that wish, because based on what I'm doing now, it would have been great if my Arabic was a lot better than it is right now. So I wish I took those classes more seriously, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I aced my Arabic classes in high school at least. But we only learn how to pass exams. We actually didn't learn how to speak or write or speak it, right? I remember for elementary school, we had the story of Abraham jumping in the fire, being thrown in the fire, but he not being a miracle and him not feeling the fire. I remember in elementary school being told, looking at a motorcycle and how that has so many different pieces and it takes somebody to put the motorcycle together, and that's also how it works in nature. Nature is even more complicated, and that's why and I remember the picture of a motorcycle in our elementary, being taken into pieces and showing all the different how complicated a motorcycle is and how somebody designed it, and that being told about, now look at a tree is even more complicated. So that was in elementary school. I remember all of that. Yeah.
Wow.
We weren't forced to pray though, so that was nice. I remember very few people prayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What about you? What was it like for you?
Yeah, no, a lot of what you said. I remember, Bible classes in elementary school, because like you, we had one class dedicated, to biblical studies, and just learning, really in-depth stuff about the Bible, and a lot of Bible verse memorization, which of course I've forgotten all now. And I usually forgot right afterwards anyways. But, a lot of, we had to memorize a lot of Bible verses, and there's also a lot of teaching about intelligent design, and about how evolution, isn't good, and God created the universe. And then when I got into high school, it was more of apologetics, so how to defend your faith. So we learned a lot about the history of Christianity, and we studied a lot of the historical evidence behind biblical events. And then in college, it got more broad, a lot of philosophical and more Bible studies. So. Yeah.
Reading, but you didn't have to learn any of it in a different language, right? You didn't have to learn, everything was in English.
No, those are only the Bible majors at my college, because you could get a major in biblical studies. They had to study it in Greek, I think, Greek or Hebrew. But no, thankfully I didn't have to go that far. So.
Yeah, because we had to learn how to read Arabic and how to read the Quran in Arabic. And it's so annoying because it's not our language, right? So and
that's intense.
And pronouncing things is in Arabic they have the 4 different sounds for Z, which is like what the yes, so I don't know, it was so annoying. And every time we got it wrong, they were like, "Nope, 1 point off. You said Z instead of V." I'm like, okay. But I remember my last year of high school. There's an option for you to not go to school and do home study, because a few people did that, and I was one of them, because you were studying so hard for university entrance exam that you think that you could study harder if you don't go to class, right? And you think time going to your school and back is time wasted, right? So I remember taking my last year from high school off to be able to study at home, to be able to pass university entrance exam, to be able to go to a good university, right? And I studied so crazy that 1 year at home. I locked myself in the basement for an entire year. And I studied I've never studied that hard in my entire life, which actually got good results. I managed to get into Tehran University because of that. But that means that the only time you actually go to school is for the end of the term exams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those end term exams were so easy compared to the university entrance exam. So you just show up and you do them, and you get like full on, I remember doing them, looking at them and like, these are so pathetically easy, because relative to university, like it was easy to pass those, right? So, but then I showed up for the date for my Quran. That was different, okay? But the Quran exam, because all the other math exams, the biology exams, is just a piece of paper. There's some questions, you answer them, you go home, you wait for your answer, right? But the Quran exam, you actually have, there's some dude that shows up, and you have to like read the Quran. He's going to pick verses, and you're going to read them, and you have to read them properly, and he marks you, right? He judges. And me and like two other, because there's not that many people that do what I did, like take one year off of high school. So it was me and just two other guys that showed up for like those other exams. Like every time we were doing these exams, it was just like 4 or 5 people, because most people were like normal kids that did their stuff with everyone else. So with the Quran exam, we showed up, and it was me and this two other guys, and the person that wanted to test our Quran skills, I remember he being like kind of annoyed with the 3 of us, because he saw us as this posh upper class people that don't even bother come to school, that like you could see that our parents are dropping us off on this like high-end cars, that we are like too, we're treating like Islam and Quran as this just thing that you just like pass exam, like we don't care about the Quran. And he didn't like us, and that much. I could see that he doesn't like us. Our whole attitude about like, treating like not even coming to school and all, right? So he's like, when we were getting ready to pass this test, and he's like, "You guys are touching the Quran," and we're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do you even have wuzu on? Do you even know how to put wuzu on?" Like, okay, wuzu is like you're not supposed to touch the words of God unless you have the Islamic wash. Like there's a ritual that you do, which is like with water. Like you go like this. First you take water and you go like this, and you go like this. There's a Sunni version and there's a Shia version. But if you don't have the wuzu on, then you're spiritually not pure enough to put your hands on the words of God. So if you don't have the wuzu on, so you have to be very careful to, like, if you're opening the Quran and you don't have the wuzu on, you have to make sure you only touch the edges, and make sure your hands don't actually touch the words of God, because you're not pure enough to touch the words of God, right? So he was like, "Do you guys did the wuzu before you did this, right?" And we're like, "No." Like, it like go into the yard. I'm gonna watch from the window and watch you guys do the wuzu. And I didn't expect this, because this was like, now he's watching us perform and stuff. Like, I know how to do the wuzu, but it was like, I was very annoyed, because he made us go out into the yard and take our shoes off and like get the water and do the, I just felt like, I mean, I was a bit privileged back then as well. So the idea of this grown man making us go, and I was an atheist. I was like full on atheist, right?
Okay.
But having to perform for somebody like this, I was like, I was like thinking to myself, and he was watching. I could see his face from the window, watching us, making us do this. I was like, what is this? I was like, because I was also like, the process of going to school and doing exams, like, there's a structure to it. You get the paper, you write it. I'm like, what is it? And I was like, this is so. I felt like this is so beneath us for a man to be able to watch us, to make us do this, and I don't even believe in any of this. And for him to make us be like his dancing monkeys, or like making us like I have to listen to this guy. Like I have no choice. I need to get that grade. I need to pass this. And he's forcing me to perform wuzu for him. And I remember being so angry, and I was trying not to show my anger, but I could just remember that rage. And I was like, I remember thinking like, I can't count the seconds for me to leave for the day that I'm not in this country anymore. Like this moment is making me realize how much I want to leave this country. And that I remember that that was the day. Yeah.
For sure. A whole ritual for touching a book. Yeah.
I mean, that was more of a rebellious phase of my life as well. So like, I'm not saying that level of anger is justified, especially given how much other people pay. Right. But for me as a teenager, getting this old man telling me, go to the yard, perform for me, and I'll watch. And I'll decide whether you pass or not. For me, that was like, I wanted to punch him in the face. I remember that, right? But I don't know. Like, I'm not saying like, because it is really comes from a position of privilege to be that angry because other people pay for their lives, and other people are getting tortured. And I was like, for me, that was like too much. So I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. But still frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Well, your school experience was a little more intense than mine.
I don't know about that.
I think so. Just the country you were in, and
I still had the family. I was in a I was in the upper
really
class.
Nice.
No, I was in the upper class part of the city. I mean, a lot of people dealt with so much worse. And I think a lot of ex-Muslims have had much worse experiences with their family and with their environment, way worse, like astronomically worse experiences than I have had. And I think given that my family was extremely liberal, and how the schools I went to were in more of the liberal parts of the city. Sometimes my experience as an ex-Muslim is like less intense than some ex-Christians have to deal with in the United States, especially people with the Mormon or Jehovah's Witness background. Again, that's unique. Like most ex-Muslims had to deal with worse than I had to deal with. Okay. All the worst experiences I had was self-inflicted. Right? Like, it wasn't like I had to deal with me being very religious and me deciding to put myself into a lot of pressure because of my philosophical beliefs more than what my family or my school did to me, right? So if any suffering that my religion caused me was because of the brainwashing of the religion, that it was self-inflicted rather than I don't know, many other ex-Muslims have to deal with the BS that comes from other people, either from their school, environment, the government, or their family. Mine was mostly self-inflicted.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And that kind of leads into a question I didn't put on there, or maybe more of like a comment. But I think the one thing that kind of persisted with me after I left religion was the idea of hell, and how, the brainwashing just, like in my mind, I knew it wasn't real, but still when it was brought up, there was that emotional reaction. Because when you argue against religion, when logic wins and when you're able to win the argument, a religious person can always come back and say, well, you're going to hell because you don't believe in my faith. And even though in my mind I knew that was BS, in my heart, it still produced that knee-jerk visceral reaction of like, oh no, like hell's a bad thing, stay away from hell. So like that also took a long time to get rid of that, that visceral, reaction to hell.
I heard it helps to remember that everyone is going to hell in someone else's religion.
Yeah, yes, it's very true. Right? Yes.
I mean, all those Christians are going into Islamic hell, according to Islam, right?
It's very true.
I mean, if it works if atheists are supposed to turn Christian because of avoiding hell, then all the Christians should turn Muslim for avoiding Islamic hell.
Right.
I mean, I just recently learned that Jains have hells. I didn't know that.
Oh, they do? Huh.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That was a new thing I learned. It's pretty bad too. Yeah. So maybe both Christians and Muslims are gonna die to find themselves in Jain hell.
Right. Yeah.
That would be surprising.
Yeah.
That's
funny. I mean, after all the blasphemous art that we're doing,
Yeah.
Atheist Republic for sure. So
yeah. Cool. It's been okay. So we're now on to 1 hour. So let's end this here. Unless you have anything else to add. You want to add anything else?
No, I want to give a shout out to you guys. You guys do a lot of great work, and especially lately with the whole college situation. And I love all the blasphemous art that you all are doing. So just a big shout out to you guys. I love you guys.
Thank you.
And keep it up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to promote anything? Do you want people to follow you anywhere? No?
Sure. I'll pull up my Twitter handle really quick here.
Cool.
Let's see. I don't post much, but I'll pull it up there. Let's see. It is okay. It's at Josh Sherwood. So that's spelled JOSHSHERWOOD. So if you want to follow me, feel free to.
Sounds good. I would follow you, but I don't have a Twitter anymore.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. And by the way, so if you guys if anybody else wants to do meetings like this, link to scheduling meetups in the description. And Josh, anytime, any other time you like you have anything in mind, any topic, you're like, hey, let's talk about this, right? It's fun talking to you. So just hit me up, message me, and we could just chill and talk about random stuff at any time. Right? It doesn't even have to be something that you think like, is this off topic? No, it's not off topic. We could just politics, religion, culture, random events, anything. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. I appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah.
Ghost Bunny saying poor Armin losing Twitter. I only got Thank you, Ghost Bunny. I really appreciate your simping, Ghost Bunny. Anyways, cool. All right, I'm gonna end the live stream right now. Again.
All right.